Yo, what's up, guys? The Dallas Cowboys season has officially come to an end, guys. Finishing off with a record of 7-9-1, guys. Losing to the New York Giants last game of the season, guys. Honestly, I think we could all agree that it was a much needed loss for the Cowboys. Did us a favor because, Cowboys get the 12th overall pick in this upcoming draft, solidified it with that loss. The Giants really hurt their draft stock. Not nowhere near close to the first overall pick, are going to get a top 5 pick. But regardless of that, Giants did themselves no favor beating the Cowboys on Sunday night, guys. But now that the Cowboys season is officially over, a very disappointing season to say the least, guys. A season I think we all expected to be a lot better than what it was, but we all know that there were a bunch of reasons why this season did not pan out the way it did. Now, obviously, some great news that came out today was the Cowboys have not waited more than 10 to 12 days to decide the future of Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus is out as Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Thank God Matt Eberflus is out as DC of the Dallas Cowboys. One of the worst defensive seasons I've seen in Dallas Cowboys history as of recent to date. Just putrid numbers, to say the least, by Matt Eberflus, guys. This year, the defense, total yards, 30th, 391.4 yards allowed per game. Incredible to see. Passing yards, 251.5 yards per game, 32nd in the league. Rushing yards, 125.5, 23rd in the league. Points, 30.1, 32nd in the league. Third down percentage, 47.3, 32nd in the league, guys. My God, did you just hear those numbers that I just laid out for you guys? It's incredible to me that Matt Eberflus lasted the entire season. We could say that's a miracle in itself that he survived the entire season. But there were just so many times where we wanted this guy gone. The Cowboys obviously didn't decide to fire him until the end, but it was just incredibly frustrating to watch. Like poking your eyes out with knives. I'm telling you, it was incredible to watch, especially the last 4 weeks of the season. The Cowboys losing 3 of their last 4 games of the season after we knew the season was a wash, after the Cowboys got destroyed by the Lions. That game there specifically really pissed me off, of course. But since we're talking about games, of course, that happened this season, we'll do a little review of how this season went. So we obviously know how the first game of the season went against the Philadelphia Eagles. We obviously know the Cowboys lost that game 24-20. Cowboys played very well in that football game. There was a bit of a delay, of course, as we all recall. And then we had CeeDee Lamb, unfortunately, dropping that catch. That was the sign that CeeDee was going to have one of those years this year, one of the worst years of his career, of course. Even though he had 1,000 yards receiving this year, he dropped that ball there. Cowboys could have maybe won that football game. That was one moment that we said to ourselves in the season, man, that might come back to haunt the Cowboys. And it obviously did, guys. That really hurt them and when it came to wins this season. So that was one game, first game of the season, where you're thinking to yourself, okay, that's going to maybe bite us in the end. And then you had the second game where we beat the Giants 40-37. That game was a shootout. We let Russ Wilson for over 335 yards that game. It was an absolute crazy game with Brandon Aubrey kicking the game-winning field goal at the end there. It was a great game to watch, but just a horrible sign that how bad this defense was going to be this season. Then we had the game against the Bears where CeeDee Lamb obviously got hurt with Brian Schottenheimer making that stupid play call, handing it off to him as a running back there. We got killed in that game, 31-14, that game there. I wasn't expecting to win that game. We had some moments in that game where we could have came back, but unfortunately the Bears defense was great. Cowboys offense was flat after the injury to CeeDee Lamb. There was no coming back in that football game there, guys. Then we had the infamous 40-40 tie against the Green Bay Packers. One bloody second would have decided between a tie and a victory for the Cowboys. And it might have maybe gotten the Cowboys into the bloody playoffs if they had won this game and win one other extra game. Unfortunate events, guys, in that football game. Jordan Love had 1 extra second left for the Packers to kick that tying field goal. Cowboys almost squeaked away with the 40-37 victory, guys. Imagine that, 2 40-37 victories in 2 out of 3 weeks would have been great. Unfortunately, the Cowboys weren't able to hold on there. The defense, as we know, putrid as we sing. So those 3 weeks from the Giants, Bears, and Packers. The Cowboys defense gave up 37 points, 31 points, and 40 points. My God, man, we just knew that it was going to be a disastrous season the first month going in, and then we beat the Jets 30-27. Obviously, the Jets are crap. We all know how much that franchise is struggling, so that was an easy victory. Then we lost to the Carolina Panthers. That loss really pissed me off. That game, they're losing 30-27, a game that we should have won, easily could have won. We let Bryce Young look like a freaking Hall of Famer the way he played in that game there. The Cowboys defense again, letting the Cowboys down. Dak had a great game in that game there. Unfortunately, the defense let him down again, as Dak stated at the end of the year, guys, there. So another loss that the Cowboys could have easily won. You know, many games this season where the Cowboys could have won games, but their defense just let them down too many times. Then you have the Commanders game, you win 44-22, an easy win there. Then you get hammered in Mile High to the Broncos, 44-24. Did not expect the Cowboys to win that game either, guys. You're a mile above sea level. The Broncos are the number one seed in the AFC, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I am not shocked at all that the Cowboys went to Denver and got their asses handed to them. That did not surprise me at all. Then we had another game that was probably one of the worst losses of the season, losing at home to the Arizona Cardinals, 27-17. Guys, you want to know the worst thing about that loss to the Cardinals? The Cardinals lost 14 of their last 15 games in the NFL regular season. Their only victory? The Dallas Cowboys. Thank you, Matt Eberflus. Well done, buddy. To let that offense of Arizona's come into Dallas and dominate the way they did. They let Jacoby Brissett smack them up the way they did in that game there. It was putrid to see. Then obviously we know the Cowboys traded for Quinnen Williams, traded for Logan Wilson during the bye week after that horrendous loss to the Cardinals. The Cowboys front office knew we got to do something to let the Cardinals do what they did. But though Kyler Murray was just a major sign for the front office to say we got to make an adjustment or make a trade. And we got Quinnen Williams, we got Logan Wilson. Quinnen Williams was fantastic for the Cowboys this year, guys, when he got acquired. We all thought the Cowboys turned a corner. Those 3 weeks after acquiring Quinnen Williams, Cowboys won 3-0. You beat the Raiders 33-16. You know, the Raiders, we know they're garbage. Was an easy victory. But then we had the two best games of the season, and for me, the game of the season for the Dallas Cowboys. Coming back from 21-0 down in the first half to beat the Philadelphia Eagles 24-21 with the game-winning field goal by Brandon Aubrey. And I'm thinking to myself, okay now. Okay. Well, that's a hell of a team victory. Hell of a character win, of course, right? You know, then we had the Chiefs victory, you know, beating them 31-28. The defense played really well in that game. Us Cowboy fans are starting to think to ourselves a little bit. Maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's slightly a possibility we get in a wildcard spot. But nope. Cowboys, unfortunately, their bubble was bursted after the Chiefs game. The Detroit Lions spanked us up 44-30. And I thought Dak was incredible in that game. But once again, the defense, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs in that game, they were spectacular. Jared Goff was great in that game as well. Dak was great. But unfortunately, guys, as we saw, George Pickens decided not to show up in that game. CeeDee Lamb played well in that game. And that's how the Cowboys lost the game. GP didn't show up. The defense didn't show up. Dak played great. What more can you ask for from the man when your team does not show up and you're the only one who does? Him and CeeDee were the only two guys. So that was an unfortunate loss there. Blew up the Cowboys' postseason chances. They needed to win out, as we know. And that's why the Cowboys obviously did make the playoffs. That was a big reason why it was losing to the Lions. And then everything went into free fall after that. You lose to the Vikings 34-26, to J.J. McCarthy. You know, the guy who had a horrendous season this year, guys. A lot of injuries as well. He played a great game against the Cowboys. Of course, everybody who's having struggles this year playing the Cowboys was going to have a great game, as I mentioned in past videos. Losing to the Chargers 34-17. Then beating the Commanders on Christmas 30-23 after the season was already a wash. And then losing to the New York Giants 34-17, guys. Some very avoidable losses in that game there, guys, in games this season. You know, very good possibility. Cowboys could have even won 9-8, maybe 10-7. But listen, guys, like I've been mentioning last 5 to 10 minutes, the defense was absolutely putrid this year. But the offense was absolutely spectacular this year. Yeah, Dak threw for over 4,000 yards. Led the league in yards this year. You had GP and Pickens, who had over 1,000 yards receiving this year. GP was top 10 in receiving yards this year. You had Javonte Williams, who had an incredible year with over 1,200 yards rushing this year, guys. So you had some great performances by players this year. You know, the Dallas Cowboys offense, total yards, first in the NFL with 400 yards per game, 404.2 yards per game. Like, incredible, man. What a waste. What an absolute waste. Passing yards, 266.3 yards per game, second in the league. Rushing yards, 125.6, ninth in the league. Points, 27.6, seventh in the league. Third down conversion, 41.1, that's 12th in the league. Listen, guys, this Cowboys offense was extremely fun to watch at times. Jake Ferguson had a great year. Like I mentioned, the other four guys, okay? The other three guys with CDGP and Lamb, CDGP and Dak. So there were some great stand-up performances this year by certain individuals. But this is a team sport, as we know. The Cowboys didn't perform up to the standards we expect them to. We obviously lost Micah Parsons at the beginning of the year. That was the biggest reason why the Cowboys defense struggled dramatically. I'm very aware that losing Micah was a big reason why we struggled defensively. Would he have changed some things? Absolutely. Would they have won more games? Maybe so, yes. But the problem is, guys, is that even though you lost Micah, you needed to still have a winning season with this offense that they had, and it wasn't good enough. Eberflus said it himself that it's his fault, and we all know it's his fault. He didn't plan properly. Even with the departure of Parsons, you needed to have this team ready to go defensively, and he just did not have it. Guys, listen, I understand we lose an all-pro in Micah, but you got to be better than what they were this year. You just have to be. And now Micah blew out his knee. He's going to be out for a year, so both teams have suffered from this trade, it seems like. So, unfortunate situation regarding Eberflus, but I'm glad he's gone. You know, he needed to leave because the way this team was operating was just not good enough, guys. Simply wasn't good enough. Now, the Cowboys have a lot to look forward to. What do you do with Pickens? Do you sign him? Do you franchise tag him? Do you sign Javonte Williams? I think you should sign Javonte. What happens with the defense? Do you draft defensive guys? That's what I think they should do. Priority should be defense. Do you maybe go trade for a Max Crosby? Hopefully the Cowboys draft a safety. I'm hearing Caleb Downs from Ohio State would be a good option. A really needed guy in the secondary, I feel. So there are a lot of things going on with the Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be all up to Jerry Jones. Is he willing to say to himself, we need to go all in this year with the offense that they have. Go get some guys on defense. 2026 could be a bright season, guys, but it will all depend on what that front office does in the draft, what they do in free agency. They've already done something good by not waiting a long time to fire Eberflus. That's a very positive thing, to say the least, guys. But at the same time, though, the Cowboys front office has to do their due diligence and finding a way to making this football team better. We already know who we're playing next year for the schedule, guys. Look, the Cowboys schedule is this. You got at home, you got the Giants, Eagles, Commanders, Cardinals again, 49ers, Buccaneers, Jaguars, Titans, and Ravens. Okay? Then on the road, you got Giants, Eagles, Commanders again, Rams, Seahawks, Packers, Colts, and Texans. Listen, that's not a hard schedule, but it's not an easy schedule, okay? Houston's in the wild card, okay? Seattle's the number 1 seed. LA's a wild card team. Baltimore missed the playoffs. Jacksonville won the division this year, okay? So you got 6, and the Packers. So you got 6 teams in the playoffs that the Cowboys are playing next season. Those are some tough games, and the 49ers as well. So 7 teams. So those are tough games. Those are very tough games. But the Cowboys have a great offense. The question will be, will Jerry Jones get a defense to help Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense? Listen, Dak said it best at his post-game press conference. You know, this is the first time this season where I cannot correlate my game to losses. What does that tell you? Even Dak said, don't even look at me for why we lost games this year. Very understandable. Dak was sensational this year. 30 touchdowns, 10 picks, over 4,000 plus yards this year, guys. He was sensational this year. GP was sensational for majority of the season, but unfortunately, when it mattered most, he didn't show up, and that pissed me off. CeeDee Lamb didn't have a great year, probably his worst year of his career, still had 1,000 yards. These are some positives. Jake Ferguson had a great year. Brandon Aubrey did worry me a little bit. At the end of the year, he was missing 58 yarders. Those were chip shots for the guy. So hopefully, It's just a blimp for Brandon Aubrey. Gets back to what we all know he can do, which is making 58-yarders like the 35-yarders. So let's see what happens in the offseason, guys. Let's see what happens in the draft. It was a very disappointing season for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, a season that we did not expect to lose Micah Parsons a week before the season. I don't think we expected the Cowboys offense to be as good as it was, but man, it was fun to watch. And I don't think we expected the defense to be as shit as it was, but it was, guys. And Jerry Jones, again, doing some stupidity, obviously, this season, talking the way he did in press conferences, saying certain things. Well, I didn't expect this defense to be this bad. Well, listen, Jerry, you got a chance this offseason to get this football team right and find a way to add some pieces to this team to make them better. But, guys, the 25-26 Dallas Cowboys season is over. A very disappointing end to the season. We'll love to hear all your guys' thoughts and opinions on this season. Good to hear that Eberflus is out as defensive coordinator. Let's see what the Cowboys do for DC. There's some great options out there. Brian Flores, Jim Schwartz, to name a few guys there. Those are some great options, to say the least, guys. Let's see what the Cowboys do this offseason, guys. I appreciate anybody who watched this season of the Cowboys. Guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, click like this video. Subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Cowboys as always, guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Cowboys Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.